Hey UK Bills Mafia, this is Christian Wade of your Buffalo Bills. This is the Red, White and Buffalo Blues, a UK Bills podcast with your hosts, Matt and Alex. Let's go Buffalo! Woo!
Welcome to another episode of the Red, White and Buffalo Blues, a UK Bills podcast. Bills news with a UK twist. I'm Matt. That is Alex. We're your hosts. And as we say, with the Red, White and Buffalo Blues with our own UK Bills mug. Alex.
How cute is that?
You got one too.
Yeah, no, I got one too. Yeah.
So we've got on today's show, we're actually we'll be talking to Matt Inkster, who was a previous guest of ours when he was under the Patriots Nation UK podcast. Recently rebranded to Pat's Chat UK. What's your views on the upcoming matchups for the season?
So we have Matt, good friend of the show. Too bad he's a fan of the biggest rival that we have. Obviously, there's a lot of buzz about this year's Bills team, and the big hurdle that we have to get over is the Patriots, obviously. So will they, can they? Matt gives us insight into what happened to their team with COVID and all their opt-outs. We talk a lot about Cam Newton and what to expect. It sounds like it's going to be probably a split, home team wins. And yeah. I think that's going to be a good start.
I think for me for me it is going to be the matchups, because I mean they've lost Hightower, they've lost Patrick Chung in the on the defense, they've lost Marcus Cannon on offense, lost a couple of players. Can the Bills actually finally break through that drought and actually put together that sort of performance that we know they could have done last year? They played close twice each time. Obviously, with Diggs on there, it's going to be an interesting one for sure. So,
a crazy question for you: would you rather beat the Patriots and go 9-7 and get that last wild card spot, or would you rather go like 11-5 but 0-2 against the Patriots? What's more important, slaying the beast or being good overall?
Is there a third option of going 10-6 and splitting?
No, you get one or the other.
I feel for this year, if we're just talking about this coming season, I'll probably go 11-5 and a double loss to the Patriots. I know I'm going to get killed for that, but that way we know that we're going to be guaranteed a playoff place, and anything can happen in the playoffs. And if we keep them close like we've done the 2 games this year, I'll be happy with that. Let's say there's unknown factors.
I see it the other way. I see it as if we go 9-7 but beat the Patriots twice, I think because our schedule is so tough, knowing that we can look at our division and say, hey, we own this division, we're a lock for 4 or 5 wins out of the division, then the rest of the schedule figures itself out. In this year where we have tougher opponents and an extra wild card spot, 9-7, get in, but own your division, that's all you want. Because also, if in that scenario, let's say we win the division at 9-7, that's still a tops playoff spot,
True.
So yeah.
But I'll take the middle ground, 10-6 in a split.
Okay.
But anyway, so if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, get that popcorn ready and get ready to watch. If you're listening to it on one of our podcast channels, turn up that volume as we talk to Matthew Inkster of Pat's Chat UK. And we're joined on the Red, White and Buffalo Blues with Pat's Chat host, Matt Inkster. Matt, thank you for coming on the show.
Welcome.
Well, thanks for asking me, Matt and Alex. Pleasure to be here.
Second time, third time, is it? A recurring guest?
Second time. I think it was about this time last year when you were doing your previews before, under the old moniker of the podcast, which has just been rebranded as we were talking about off air. So, well, I can get into that at the end. No worries.
Okay. Well, first question, softball. This is what I'm asking kind of everybody. It's been an interest to me since I've moved to the UK. How did you become a Patriots fan?
The short answer is that I went, yeah, Boston. Yeah, that'll do. But the long-winded answer is that I've got a rare blood condition, which means sun isn't my best friend. When especially like weather like we've had these past few days. So I didn't want any Californian teams, didn't want any Florida teams, didn't want anything in the South pretty much, unless you're going to be in Dallas or New Orleans, where obviously they can play indoor stadiums, or the other indoor ones. But anyway, West Coast was out of the question for me because of the time difference. I didn't want to be staying up and watching a lot of late games a lot of time. Because friends of mine are baseball fans and they're both Giants fans. So it's a bit of an issue trying to watch games at 3 a.m. rather than at 9, 10, midnight, whatever. So I ended up in East Coast, wanted somewhere colder because of my condition.
Hello?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to say, why not Buffalo?
Because it's not a very cool sort of place, really, is it? Although since in more recent times, since I've learned a bit more, it's not the worst place. And there's a community spirit there, as Alex will probably testify for. So anyway, that ended up basically picking Boston.
What year was it, would you say? I mean, the Bills have always been bad in our lifetimes, pretty much. So it's not like you had.
I've been an NFL fan and watcher for years and years, like probably as long as I can remember. I'd have been 7-ish, 8 when Elway won his last one for the Broncos. Favre winning for the Packers, so that was what, 97, 98 sort of.
Yeah, was when Favre won it.
Yeah, so around about that time. So I remember watching it since then, but realistically, I've been a Patriots fan for probably the last 12 or 13 years, round about the time of the Giants Super Bowls that will not be mentioned anymore.
So we'll move on.
More good than bad. Don't feel bad about it.
That's true.
Try not to.
So big off-season news, obviously, is the signing of Cam Newton. Now, is that Cam Newton starting, or does Jarrett Stidham have the leg up, have the favourite so far because he's been in the system, knows the system, or is it going to be Cam straight up starting week 1?
I might regret this. However, I'll become a Buffalo Bills fan if Newton isn't the starter week 1.
Hot take.
Well, we'll take that.
That's how confident I am. I'll be shocked and dismayed if he is not the starter.
We'll get him a mug. We'll get him a mug if that happens as well to make it official.
Yeah, so that's how confident I am. I must say though, I am a huge Stidham fan. My very first podcast for the Patriots Nation UK, the old one, was with my friend Stephen, who is the aforementioned Giants fan, is also a 49ers fan. So I got him on. He's a friend. I thought it's a nice way to break into, doing podcasting of any description. And we sat down and broke down film on Stidham and Jimmy G. And so I can see a lot of comparisons between the two of them. A lot of the film from his final season in Auburn was some good, some bad, but probably the bad was more related to the actual offensive line in front of him and having to throw the ball away quicker in windows that weren't there, or just getting sacked and such like. So I see why the front office and Bill liked him. The whole off season, I wasn't confident that they were 100% behind him, though, as much as he was the QB until a few weeks ago. And all the pieces all the dominoes have gone into effect, and we've picked him up for less than what Teddy Bridgewater will get paid this season. So
crazy. Yeah,
can't disagree with that value. And so I think Newton will be number one come week 1.
I just read today that Cam Newton's comments on the playbook was it's like calculus. I think that there's been a lot of big name free agents come to New England over the years. Ocho Cinco, for example, that just couldn't pick it up. Is there any news about him struggling or anything? I mean, I know they haven't really done anything yet, but you're confident that he can pick it up, and to go with that, are you confident in his physical level?
I think he'll pick it up. I think they'll also adapt it towards this. But I mean, obviously, TB12's gone now, so they're going to have to do something different. And I think they will do it differently, especially if Cam is the one that they've picked out as the starter. I think they would have gone a slightly different route and kept it quite similar to the old way, because obviously Stidham's been in the system for a year now under Tom before he left. But now with a slightly more dynamic quarterback than even Stidham is, they'll probably make things more workable for Cam Newton himself. But he's a former league MVP. I think he could walk in any team pretty much and pick up their playbook. It was just about getting the right deal for him and for the team that in question that he ended up going to. And we've seen since he might, if it had been happening now because the opt-outs that have occurred, he might have taken more of the cash that we have in our cap room now. So luckily enough for us, it was done at a time that we were down about the last cent of cap room space that we managed to squeeze him in and get the deal done.
Yeah, I mean that leads us pretty much on to the next point, and obviously all the opt-outs that are actually that are happening. I think you lost 8, 9 guys opting out.
Yeah, I think it was 8.
Was it Patrick Chung and Dante Hightower?
So just kind of go over who are the top players that you lost so far?
From the opt-outs, Hightower is the main one. He's the signal caller. He's the captain of the defense. He's the mic. He's the everything in that defense. And to lose him this year is huge. This is my Hightower jersey I'm sitting in at the moment, actually. And so he's gone. Patrick Chung was the other main piece that's decided to opt out. They're probably maybe Dan Vitale might have been the next one in line if you were going down the order of the most important pieces that have gone. The fullback Dan Vitale they got from Green Bay. He was possibly coming in line to take over from where James Devlin left off last year, although we've got Jakob Johnson and potentially Dalton Keene, who was drafted as a tight end, but there is talk of him shifting over to a fullback role, and he might even become a hybrid. So I think they were the top pieces, and I've spoken to a couple of mates that don't follow the Patriots as much as me, and they've said, who? And so that kind of tells you the depth that they've kind of maybe lost or not lost to be the case. Brandon Bolden, that was the other one. He's always been good on special teams and good to help out in the running game if more than likely Rex Burkhead goes down at any point in the season.
You also lost, was it Marcus Cannon?
Yeah, he's gone. Right tackle, Cannon, he's also gone. And there's word of Joe Tooney shifting over to take over from him in that position. We'll see how that goes, if that's something they go with. But Cannon's got issues that isn't just, he's had a baby or whatever. He's previously had been a survivor of cancer. I believe that's made him go the way he has done.
Yeah. What were for the two important ones, Hightower and Chung? What were the reasons? Was it just fear?
Family?
Yeah.
Yeah, but both of them I can't remember about Chung off the top of my head, which is probably really bad. But Hightower 3 weeks ago, I think it was, that he's welcomed a baby into the family, and Chung, I think his wife or girlfriend's pregnant and due very, very soon.
Okay.
So because for family reasons, that's the main reasons why they've opted out on this occasion. So
I mean, well, that's obviously weakened you a little bit, but then let's talk about your off season. Good, bad, average, your views, free agency draft. How would you sum it up?
Indifferent, probably. I mean, it's the strangest of times, which I'm sure we've all said a million times already.
Yeah.
We're in unprecedented times with this COVID-19 that's ongoing at the minute. I mean, I'm talking to you now in our city, my city, Aberdeen, is in a local lockdown again because of what happened a week or so ago, or 10 days, 2 weeks ago now. There's been a big knock-on effect from people visiting bars that have then mixed with others and so on and so forth. And the local soccer team have been dragged over hot coals this week for them being part of the reason behind it. And being in the midst of it in a bar that was, way, way overcrowded in comparison to what social distancing dictates. So with that, it's been difficult to try and even evaluate anyone at this minute in time. There's been no mini camp. There's been no rookie camp or anything like that. It's all been done as we are talking right now, pretty much, in presentations online and such like that they've had to do, which seems a little bit strange in a way, depending on where they are in the country, obviously, that they couldn't get them into a facility. And I'm sure you guys might have spoken about this, and Matt, you'll know from the English Premier League as well, how much protocols and things that they have gone through. I don't understand. I've spoken to some people this week, and I posed that question to them of why don't they take the English Premier League blueprint and put it in NFL, put them in bio bubbles or whatever fancy name you want to go with, and run from that point of view. We've seen it with the NHL, it's working. We've seen with the NBA, it's working. And then baseball has just been an absolute stramash of nonsense.
I've made that
especially.
Yeah.
So it's but apart from the COVID-19 thing, Newton coming in has been huge, as we've just talked about. I was really pleased with the draft. Kyle Duggar, I think everyone thought the same thing, and he probably could have. They could have maybe even got him in the 4th or 5th round potentially because of the school that he went to. But
everyone's draft crush, that one.
Yeah, they've. They know what they're looking for. They look for a certain type of player fitting the system, rather than the system fitting the player that's there. So, the front office staff and the coaching staff know what they're getting out of Duggar, or they wouldn't have taken him at the position they did. Josh Uche, I'm really pleased about, another force at the linebacker spot, and especially with Chase Winovich being there. I think he can buddy him along, being former teammates together at Michigan, that he might come on quicker than you would expect, especially, again, as I say, with the restraints that have been put on the rookies, especially this off-season. So overall, I'm quite pleased, but it's still, the jury's out until we actually see them on a field, which is obviously not going to be until week 1 with no pre-season this year.
Yeah, no. My boy.
You all right there? I'll take this next one.
You take the next one.
We're losing Matt. So if you're happy with how the team has come together in the light of the loss of obviously the best player in your team history, his number one target in Gronk, you've owned the Bills. So let's talk about the matchup. You've owned us forever. There's a huge wave in the media about the Bills are taking over. Obviously, a Patriots fan, I wouldn't be ready to let go. Make an argument for why the Patriots can still win the division.
Cam Newton.
We're really that high on him because I mean I remember we did a show a few weeks ago about Cam Newton coming in, and at that time I was worried. But then with the opt-outs, losing an offensive lineman is big. Learning a new playbook is tough because he's only been with one team before that. And then with the opt-outs, I'm a little bit less worried now. Like I feel like we have a shot, but you're saying Cam Newton, he's gonna get it. He's gonna be MVP caliber again, and you're locked into that, yeah?
Yes and no. I was kind of being flippant, to be honest, Alex. As you say, there's a lot of pieces that are have fallen since he came into the building, including the aforementioned Hightower. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I think it'll come down to the matchups between the two teams. I think 10-6, 11-5 is enough for either team to win the division. Whoever gets it, I think, crosses the finishing line first. Whether that's us, whether it's you guys, we can forget the other two. They're just not in a position to do anything of any description whatsoever.
One thing I agree with a Patriots fan on, that we can discount the Dolphins and the Jets.
Yeah, we'll just discount them for at least this season until Tua's into that system a bit more, and then we'll see what he's got. But going back to, I didn't actually answer your part of your question earlier on, Alex. The mechanics of Newton and his health is the huge thing. That's the two factors that can make or break his season and whether he's back to any sort of MVP caliber or not, I think, because there's a person, Mark Schofield, I don't know if you've heard of him before. He is a Patriot writer, but also does stuff for the Eagles and the Giants, and he's a former quarterback himself to, I think, college level, if I remember rightly. And so he knows, call it quarterback plays and such like, and he is on his show that he podcasts for, mainly to do with the Patriots, as I say. He will go into detail about various plays and via two tight end sets, etc., etc. And the thing he's mentioned is the shoulder and the injury, because even I'm not sure if it's totally related to the injury, if it's something that's always sort of been there. But basically, his mechanics of his arm isn't the best, and he's always had an issue with throwing to certain windows, whether it's outside, and I think it's outside the numbers on his strong side. Isn't the greatest, whereas he can throw across, but not that way, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, the mechanics in his health, and if he can be any sort of MVP level caliber quarterback, I think that's what tips it over the edge for us to win the division. And again, similarly with you guys, I think it comes down to whether Josh Allen can step up and again prove. I mean, he was brilliant last year up until that playoff game, where it was unfortunate for you guys that it was a deer in headlights, and he just didn't know what he was doing. If he gets his head straight and in those sort of big moments, then potentially the sky's the limit for you guys, and it's probably a long time coming. Sorry, Buffalo Bills fans, that you've been for a number of years.
I mean, you got to think at a certain point something's got to change. I mean, nothing stays the same forever, right? I mean,
no.
As long as it's not the Jets or the Dolphins, we'll take our turn next, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could be quite assured about that. And as you say, things are cyclical. It was, what's that, coming on 20 years since you guys had that Super Bowl runs that sadly ended up the way it did for you guys. So, I mean, that's fashion goes in 20-year cycles. Football may go in 20-year cycles. So maybe it is time for you guys, especially now that Brady's left the building and we're moving on to new quarterback and such like.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay,
I had a quick question that we didn't talk about, Matt. Sorry. The wide receiver you drafted last year, his name eludes me.
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah. Where's his progression? Because he's a Kelvin Benjamin type, and that's when Cam Newton had his best season. How's he doing? Because there was a bust last year. So is he going to redeem himself?
Bust may be a strong word for a rookie. I mean, there are cases. I know what you're trying to say, though. There are cases where it has been a pretty off season, especially he was on IR for so long and only got to play a sort of a few games. And being on IR didn't help him his integration into the team. Now he's got a full off season behind him. He's going into year 2, another season in the system, so to speak, to learn the playbook and such like. So realistically, he probably becomes the wide receiver 2/3 because they wouldn't have paid a second-round pick for Mo Sanu if it didn't mean that he could then step up and be that player also. And almost by default, in a way, through veteranship and otherwise, that Edelman is probably the wide receiver 1 de facto. So then it falls back to them two, and then behind that, it's almost a free-for-all between a former Newton teammate, Demir Bird, and Jacoby Myers and Olszewski and all the rest of them that are there vying for that 3rd, 4th, 5th receiver slot.
So last season, there were 2 close games between us. Obviously, with the Bills' off-season additions, through trade with Diggs, through the free agency and all that, is there anything that you could see that actually scares you going into the matchup? So is there anything that you think they've strengthened up on that? They can, and have you got any weaknesses? Was there any weaknesses in the Patriots' armour?
I think it's quite similar to what we talked about this time last year, to be honest. With both defenses are huge; they're top 5 defenses. You've got we've both got some of the best cornerbacks in the league in Tre'Davious White and Stephon Gilmore, obviously ex-Bills player as well. It's whether, for me, it probably again boils down to whether Hightower, how much of a loss it becomes evident that he is. And besides the opt-outs as well, we've also lost Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy. They've both gone as well, and they were huge pieces in our defense last year.
Yeah.
So that's something to look out for you guys, especially when you've got you've added Diggs into the mix, as we were just saying as well. But Allen, if he can step up and be a better quarterback than he was last year. So yeah, it's kind of comes down to both defenses, really. I think also as I just said, the wide receivers aren't all that. But I mean, as you say, if Kelvin Benjamin's the best that Newton's had to play with, and that can get you an MVP season, then what can you do with the guys that are there? So.
Okay.
And our running game is pretty strong. James White is a good sort of Swiss Army running back to have. If he's in, you don't know whether it's going to be a running play, an RPO, or something. Michelle's the one that I just don't know which way it'll go for him this year. I think it's make or break for him. Sadly, he's having these foot injuries. He's back on the PUP list for now. We'll see how that goes. He just wasn't the same run back at all last season in comparison to his first year. Whether you want to blame that on the line that they couldn't open up the space for him, or it's just him. He just runs into brick walls, and he expects what happened to the season before to happen again. I don't know, but it's make or break for him. But at least we've got Damian Harris is waiting in the wings, and hopefully he comes on in year 2 and kind of his rookie year, because since he redshirted last year pretty much, and see how he gets on. So I think it kind of comes down to the defenses who buckles first pretty much.
Yeah, I mean you really out your own secondary. You've only really lost Patrick Chung. You still got the McCourtneys, you still got obviously Gilmore, and I'm assuming that they've started playing Duggar or they're looking to play Duggar in the in Chung's role, and we know what everyone's actually draft crushing him over during the season, that he could actually play that role and actually be that impact player as a rookie.
Yeah, those are 3 strong pieces still.
Yeah, Duggar again is a question mark against him again because of COVID-19. We don't know how it'll affect him making such a big jump. I mean, it's not even a step or a jump; it's an absolute leap coming from a Division 2 school to be in the NFL without any sort of physical training time. Apart from now, obviously, as we speak, they're all into training camp, and we'll see how that goes as well. And yeah, it comes more down to the linebackers and the actual line itself, I think, rather than the backfield, because the backfield is, as you say, Matt, is pretty solid as in comparison to last year. They've not really lost that much.
Yeah. So it all in all, you probably could say that it obviously, if you take the linebackers in question against the running backs, it's mainly going to be, can Allen and the wide receivers actually get the best of the secondary for the Patriots, and vice versa? So obviously we've got issues of sort with Norman or Wallace being outside Trey White, but we've still got the safeties. Can Newton and the wide receiver group actually take on the Bill secondary? I think that's where it'll be won and lost. But obviously, as you say, your main losses have been linebacker, but that's kind of where I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about 2 great secondaries, then this might be a running game kind of matchup. You know?
Yeah, could be. Singletary coming on his second season. I like him as a running back. See how that improves. Obviously, Gore's not there anymore, so yeah, it could come down to the running game. And I think just before we came on air, we've signed another cornerback in Michael Jackson, as funny a name as that is, taking him off the Lions. So he's had a year under Patricia, which is probably part of the reason that he was waived today and then picked up by the Patriots straight away. So for an undisclosed draft pick. So we have got depth at cornerback. It is that line and the linebackers in behind it are going to be the question, if they can get it Allen and stop Diggs and John Brown et al. To scoring touchdowns. Yeah.
So we'd like to say thank you very much for coming on the show. Second time on the show. One more time, we might do as I do on Soccer AM, give you like an American football voice time by me and Alex, possibly. Who knows? Where can the listeners, if they want to banter with you, Hands vs. Bills, listen to anything, any podcast of yours, where can they find you and have a nice little banter battle?
The main place for the podcast is at Pat's Chat UK. It's PATSCHAT UK. My own personal Twitter, if you want to have a wee banter and a bit of go me on there, is Matt Inkster at Matt Inkster, MATTINKSTER. As mentioned previously, it used to be the podcast was under an old moniker, Patriots Nation UK. You can still find it on all the good places under that name for now, and I'm looking into getting that changed probably this week, because I've done some interviews and stuff leading up to the new season this past week, so looking to get that sorted. Got a new guy, Jake, on board with me now. If you want, you can listen to the intro podcast as to his background, but he's a good guy, great guy to have on board for various reasons, mainly to do with his actual professional job that he does, which will help improve us and maybe, like yourselves, build up the YouTube channel and the Instagram and such like going forward. So yeah, Twitter's the main place, and then can branch out from there. So Twitter again is at Pat's Chat UK, and my one is at Matt Inkster.
Awesome.
Good luck building the brand.
Yes, we know.
Same as you guys. You're paving the way, so I'll take some lead from you.
Fun
Yeah,
with it.
exactly. See how it goes. But no, thanks very much for having me on. And
That's
you know,
cool.
anytime you want to chat and banter, then give us a shout.
Yeah,
Sounds
will
good.
do. So once again, thank you very much, Matt, for coming on the show.
Cheers.
Now let's go. Make a run. No more. Bills on three. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
Okay, Bills fans, Matt here. Just thanking you for watching and subscribing to our YouTube channel and our podcast. What I ask for you to do, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, follow these links here, and also continue to subscribe, review, support us on our podcast, which you can find on all platforms, and also continue to subscribe to the UK Bills YouTube. Let's grow this UK fan base, spread the word, and I will say this: go Bills, go Bills. The Bills make me want to shout.